So 4 Degrees had a crazy start. So we were in Mexico for a brother's wedding, and my brother Joel, obviously, had been in the military, and I was always trying to figure out a way to get him out of the military. I pitched farming, ranching, all the things nobody else likes. For some reason I thought he would. And we were there, and up to that point, my wife and I, Whitney, had built a portfolio of rentals, and I was like, Joel, found it, perfect job, here we go. Let's start a management company. This is gonna be awesome. And
yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he thought I did for the military, but it had nothing to do with managing properties, specifically managing angry tenants.
Yeah, something about logistics, and that all seemed to encompass all into one thing. And so we talked about it, spent probably 2 hours. I'm like, this is the best idea. A couple of drinks helped that with that idea. And then got home, about 3 months later, he goes, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, dude, what?
Yep, so I gave him a call because Julie and I had been talking about it, thinking about it, praying over this idea because we enjoyed being in the military at the time. Ultimately got to the point where we wanted to get back home, right? We wanted to get back around family, create an opportunity for ourselves. And so he's right. I did give him a call, said, here's my timeline. And if you know me, you know I had a timeline for this thing. So we built out a timeline in order to get back here and get it started.
Yeah, and it came from the simple idea of why do we have to go to multiple places to get one answer about real estate? So if you needed commercial property, you went to a brokerage. You need management, you probably went to another brokerage. You wanted to buy a home, you went to another one. And so the most basic fundamental concept was putting all of those in one house and truly becoming the expert in real estate. Not just a decent brokerage, not just a decent management company, but the best management company possible. And started with that vision, and the first 6 months might have been the darkest 6 months ever. There was no clients. We were sitting in our office trying to make up things to do, and a lot of Post-it notes. They're probably still there, the first office. And we were at a building we had owned over on West Broadway in West Central in Spokane, 250 square feet, but the sweetest desks that were left over by the previous tenant. And we did have a phone service.
Yep. And so one of the ideas from the beginning is we always wanted to put off the perception that we're much bigger than we really are. So clearly we had 3 of us in the office. One of them was my younger sister, Joelle. And so intentionally when calls would come in, granted they were few and far between, I would always tell her to put them on hold and then let me check my schedule, which there was clearly nothing on the schedule. And then I would get back to them, right? And so I'm just, super antsy to call them back. But back to one of George's points, one of the things I was thinking out of this was not only just a one-stop shop for real estate services, but also I have a passion for leading and investing in people. So clearly there wasn't much to invest in at the very beginning, but over the course of time, now we have a good team behind us and a lot of people that I have that opportunity to invest in.
Yeah, and so you write down this concept on a napkin, right? And it wasn't a big napkin, 4x4, one of those ones you get at the wedding, and it was like, okay, brokerage, management, commercial. I'm like, well, how many units is that? And so we started laying this out, and it was like, oh, one day we want 250 units, and maybe we have like 20 brokers, and you know what, we may even get an office downtown one day. This might, if we work hard, we could get this. And now we're in year 5, celebrating kind of the 5th year of the company, and we're just over 5,200 units under management, 64 brokers, and one of the best teams I think assembled in our region. So it's been kind of a fun journey that way to watch it go from a napkin to sitting in our 3rd office building in just as many years. I think coming up with a name for 4 Degrees was probably the hardest part. So when we talked, and eventually he didn't get out of the military to be in management, he got out to make impacts in the community. And so we were like, okay, let's start a foundation. I'm like, I've been in that world. You gotta have money to do that. And so we basically backed into it. And so the 4 Degrees came from the concept of having a brokerage, which is one of them. The second one would be management. Third one is investment. But the 4th and most important is community. And so, the idea was that each of these little distinct separate parts of our organization were within a degree of separation of each other. So it wasn't that they didn't talk to each other, that they all worked in concert to come to the same goal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people ask us, where do we see ourselves in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And sure, we could throw numbers to it. We could say X number of units managed, X number of team members, but I think that's less of what I'm concerned with. It's more what impacts are we making in our community? Like how can we measure that and how can we basically use our platform of 4 Degrees to be able to influence the most amount of people in Spokane with what we've been given.
Less than a year in, we were presented with this amazing opportunity. So Steve James was my mentor in real estate. Actually, he tells a better story because I was selling him signs for all the properties he was selling, actually, in one of my jobs. But came to us, and he came to our grand opening, and we had this one open office. I told Joel we should put a rent me sign in, just jokingly, see if we can get some agents. Well, Steve's up there with his wife, Bria, and I go, one day, this will be yours. He laughed twice. I think I handed him a drink, and then we went back, and a couple months later, calls me and goes, were you serious? Is that something we should do? And went over for dinner and had the best conversation. Thought, you know what? If we ever want this to be the best version, we have to have the best people. And so I'm gonna let Steve dive in further into the story itself, but it was one of those amazing opportunities that I feel like we were so fortunate to have and have experienced the blessings from that.
You know, I did go to that grand opening, and Jordan did say, hey, we're gonna see you up in that office someday. And I told him, yeah, right. Thanks a lot. I'm here as a friend to support you guys during your grand opening. And but we did give it some more thought, and I had been a seasoned agent, and over time, was just looking for something a little bit more, something a little bit different. You know, I loved the previous years that I'd spent in real estate, and I really liked Spokane. And more importantly, and the reason that I was intrigued or interested in investing in 4 Degrees and partnering with Joel and Jordan was I knew their family. The very first way that Jordan and I started to meet each other was, like you said, you know, he was working outside of real estate at a sign company, and he had ultimately seen enough of my work to actually refer me to his parents, who wanted to invest in some real estate, and I helped him with several transactions. Probably thought he was breaking my heart, but said, hey, I think I'm going to get a real estate license, and that probably means I'm going to work with my parents. So I said, well, good for you, and let's grow this. And so again, fast forward a few more years, and Jordan and Joel have started 4 Degrees. I'm kind of watching on the outside, and we just really want to support them and what they're doing, because I know this is not easy, and they're jumping into a pond with a lot of real big fish. But I knew the family. I knew how genuine and earnest they were. I knew that they were fantastic people. And I just reached out to Jordan someday, and I said, hey, what does it look like if I come over and if I bring my small team over to 4 Degrees? And it was a real easy decision to say, let's do this. I was honored that they would look at me as someone who knew how to give them that guidance and help them bring 4 Degrees to the next level and the level we're at today.
Yeah, and especially starting out, our motto was almost to be a 10-year-old company in our first year. And I think what helped us make that jump was bringing Steve on. So he brought a professionalism, a way to act in the industry, and it took us immediately from this fledgling startup to a contender. I mean, basically, ever since then, we've been knocking on the #1 spot, and with our new goals, should hopefully hit that at one point.